Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast, and go to their website at www.violetdefense.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. We have a Sideline Interactive video score table at our school, and it is fantastic. You really need to check it out. You know, it's becoming harder and harder these days to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action, so you can see what these fantastic products can do for you. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. The FIAAA has a Wall of Fame video board for their Hall of Fame, and it is really a cool program. You should check it out. Wall of Fame by Vital Signs has a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. We provide a variety of interactive touchscreen options and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, visit www.vitalsignswalloffame.com, or learn more and get started on your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also gives the 95% of the players and the parents who love your program a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to say thank you to Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herb Jones, along with Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing, for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We've got a special episode today. We're visiting with Jared Drinkwater. Jared is the Chief Marketing Officer at BSN Sports, which is the nation's largest direct marketer and distributor of sporting goods for teams and for schools. And I can say that, I've been a BSN customer as a coach, as an AD, for almost the last 20 years. So Jared, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Well, we're excited to hear what's going on. I know, you're down there in Texas, but BSN certainly has a big presence in Florida and across the country. And for our listeners, we are recording this on September 23rd. So it's going to be pretty timely when you hear this episode. So let's get started. Jared, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe how your path has led you to your current position with BSN.
Yeah, you got it, Jake. So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and kind of knew early on that I wanted to be in the sports business. My first job was selling hats and t-shirts at Fenway Park. And that took me to the University of Michigan, which at the time was one of the only big colleges in the country that had a sports management program. So I spent 4 years in Ann Arbor, actually spent 4 years working for the Michigan football team. I was an assistant to the quarterbacks coach in college. So played in high school, but definitely not big enough and good enough to play D1 college ball, but it was close enough. And so that was a wonderful experience. And then I left and got into various roles within the kind of sports world. Went out to Los Angeles and worked for a sports marketing company out there. Same guy that owns the Staples Centers and a bunch of other properties. And then kind of working with Nestle Candy, we negotiated all of their NBA deals. Thought that what the Nestle folks on the marketing side what they were doing was cooler than what I was doing. So I went back to grad school at Northwestern University and got my MBA, and then ultimately came down to Texas for what I thought was going to be like a 2 or 3 year stint working in brand marketing for Frito-Lay. It's turned out to be 18 years plus. I met my wife here. We've got 4 kids. And so we're not leaving Texas anytime soon. I love it. Would never go anywhere else. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I've spent the majority of the last 18 years in brand marketing and food and sport. So was at PepsiCo, at Frito-Lay for a while. Then I went to run marketing for Pizza Hut North America. And then I got a call from a recruiter reaching out about a CMO job at BSN Sports. Candidly, I had never heard of BSN Sports, and they were like 5 miles from my house, but it had sports in the name, and sports has always been a passion. So I thought I'd go talk to them and see what they were all about. Absolutely fell in love with the company, not just the company's growth, but just the people. Some really incredible people and kind of what they were doing to try and transform the world of youth sport. And so that was almost 5 years ago. And it's been quite a journey from there to here. We've done a lot. We still got a long way to go, but it's been a wonderful ride and a wonderful company. And now I'm even closer to sport than I was when I started out, just given the fact that so much of the work that we do is with high school coaches and athletic directors.
I always love to hear the stories, and you're rattling off, Boston Red Sox, University of Michigan, and even Northwestern, some really, legendary places and venues. One of my favorite moments of my career, I applied and was somehow selected to be part of the high school staff for Jim Harbaugh's very first Michigan, football camp. And I've got a picture. They really treated us high school coaches well in the locker room, the actual Michigan locker room. Here's my name and my number up on my locker. So I've got that photo, and I bring that out anytime I'm around a Michigan person, but I'll spare you that right now. Okay.
Love it. Well, hey man, if he doesn't beat Ohio State this year, get ready for the head coaching job.
Well, as long as you brought it up, I'm born and raised and still a lifelong Oregon Duck fan. So, we're still feeding off of that big win against Ohio State. And a bunch of my Michigan buddies called me up and said, "Hey, I'm a Duck fan today." So, but we digress. Okay. Jared, one of the questions we always ask our guests revolves around the idea of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I'm curious, who are some of your mentors that you look back on that had an impact on your life? None of us get where we are by ourselves. So who are some of those people that, help push you along, pat you on the back, or kick you in the butt when you needed it?
Yeah. I mean, I start with one that's probably cliche, but really close to me is my dad. So, I think the most important lesson my dad taught me was laughter makes life better. And so he was kind of a quintessential jokester, always pulling pranks, always trying to make me and the family laugh. And, I say that and it sounds pretty simple, but especially today, I mean, so much going on in the world. Laughter is more important now than ever. And I always like to tell my team when it gets tough, at the end of the day, we're selling sporting goods, right? And you never want to let anybody down. We take it very personally and seriously when we let someone down. But if we're not laughing, doing our jobs here, it's going to be a really long and tough life. And so, for me, laughing is really important. My kids will probably tell you that they laugh at about 15% of the jokes that I throw out on a daily basis, but at least I'm trying. So that's just one kind of philosophy that I really subscribe to. Second mentor was one of my bosses at PepsiCo, who's now second in command at PepsiCo, amazing guy named Ram Krishnan. And Ram was a guy who taught me to set really audacious, crazy goals, even if you knew you were never going to hit them. And so I laugh about this. One example, when I was running brand marketing for Doritos, this was before really social media was starting to take off, and YouTube was just starting, and we would create content. He'd say, Drinkwater, I want 500 million views of whatever video you're going to put out next. And you would laugh. But, I think what that taught me is that if you don't set really high, audacious goals that people laugh at, you're never going to push yourself and challenge yourself. And so those are just kind of two people that have played an instrumental role in my life. And, I draw from those lessons every day.
Is great stuff. Laugh, enjoy life, and set the bar high. Try to reach those so-called unreachable goals. Very cool. We're visiting with Jared Drinkwater, the Chief Marketing Officer at BSN Sports. We're going to come back and hear more about the company, but first let's take a break and hear from one of our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD podcast. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD podcast, and please go to their website at www.violetdefense.com. We're back with Jared Drinkwater, Chief Marketing Officer at BSN Sports. Jared, as I mentioned earlier, I've, as a coach and as an athletic director, I've been associated and working with people at BSN for the last, 20 years. But for one of our younger listeners, maybe an AD that's not familiar with the company, what are some things that BSN provides for a coach or an AD that allows them to, do their job better and maybe even have more fun with it?
Yeah. So before I talk a little bit about what I think makes us different than some of the other options that coaches and athletic directors have, I thought it would be important to talk a little bit about why we do what we do. Oftentimes you just see companies and brands and advertisements that are all about what people sell. And at the end of the day, people buy the why you sell it. And so we've done a lot of work on this over the last 5 years and really re-architecting everything about our business to help coaches and athletic directors. And how we came to where we are today, I spent probably the first 6 months of my job on the road with our sales pros in AD's offices and coaches' offices. And I had a couple high-level observations. Number one, and this is kind of true across our entire company, we believe that coaches and athletic directors are some of the most influential people in a kid's life. And they're not in coaching because they want to buy gear. They're in coaching because they want to pay it forward, because they want to help a kid. And so really every morning, every day for us starts really thinking about how we can help them. Also realize that coaches are under a tremendous amount of pressure. They really don't have enough time in the day to do everything they need to do. I mean, you walk around, you look at athletic directors and coaches, and I mean, they're not only coaching, but they got to hire people, that they got to build their culture, they got to recruit. They've got to do all kinds of things on social media. They got to deal with parents. They got to deal with kids that are more about me than we, because that's the culture that we live in today. Their PR director, their marketing director, I mean, they're wearing like 15 different hats. And so literally don't have enough time to think about how they're they're really going to coach on and off the field and interact with kids. And then lastly, realize that they're some of the most emotional people on the planet, in a good way, right? They're trying to help people. And so we thought about, okay, well, where does BSN fit into all of this? And really at the end of the day, our why we do what we do is because if we get up and do our jobs right, and basically we help coaches the way we think we can help coaches, every minute we save them off the field can be spent impacting lives on it. And so everything we've done over the last 5 years, and really dating back 15 or 20 years, you can look at it, is meant to save a coach time. So the millions of dollars we're investing in technology, we're trying to help save coaches time. The whole notion of where's my stuff and coaches getting stressed out about orders. We are not perfect. We're going through supply chain issues like everybody else, but we stock hundreds of millions of dollars in inventory because we know that that can help us save time and get stuff to coaches faster. It doesn't always work, but we're getting better every day. And so really everything we do is geared towards saving coaches time. And that's what we hope will make lasting relationships and impressions on coaches and athletic directors. And candidly, it's been a real cultural win for BSN. You think about all the former coaches and athletic directors and athletes that work for our company, over 1,100 sales pros, pretty much all of them have been involved in sport in some way, shape, or form. And so you think about living a fulfilled life. Are you going to be more fulfilled getting up every day, selling Nike t-shirts and basketball rims, or getting up knowing that if you do your job the right way, you're going to help a coach impact a kid's life in a more meaningful way? And so that's just to kind of set the stage on why we do what we do.
Wow, very, very cool to see that, corporate in a very good way, structure. And as you said, always talking about the why, why do you do it? Okay. For our listeners, we're visiting with Jared Drinkwater, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for BSN Sports. We're going to continue with the interview, but let's take another break and hear from a couple of our podcast sponsors. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their sponsorship. My old school actually has a Sideline Interactive video board, and it is fantastic. We use it all the time. Should really check them out. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo to see their tables and boards in action and to see exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We're back with Jared Drinkwater from BSN Sports. Jared, I know a lot of athletic directors around the state and around the country, and some of them will say that they just don't want to deal with a big national company. And I tell them I've always had great relationships with my BSN reps. What can you share with us about that topic?
Yeah, it's a great question. And candidly, it's a perception that we're trying to always address in the marketplace. I mean, just to talk a little bit about our company, and when someone says we're this big national conglomerate and we're not local, it really couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, we've got over 1,100 sales folks across the country that are living in communities that we serve, sending their kids to the high schools that they're calling on. And so for us, I mean, what we've invested in is 700 people back in Dallas, Texas, that are supporting the front line, that again are trying to make their job easier so they can help coaches in a more meaningful way. And so everything from logistics to customer service to shipping and warehousing, et cetera, it's not meant to create this aura of a huge company that doesn't care about local communities. It's more about helping local communities in a more meaningful way. And so for us, I mean, we know that there are a lot of tremendous local team dealers out there that have been in business a really long time. And I will say one thing about coaches and athletic directors, and this is a compliment. They're probably some of the most loyal people you will ever meet if you do right by them. And so anywhere in business, when you're trying to pick up a new customer or help someone in a new way, breaking down those relationships are very difficult. And so the only way we'll do that is if we truly provide experiences and make the coach's life so easy that it's impossible for them to go anywhere else. And so we're on our way to do that. We're investing a lot of money in digital experiences to kind of give coaches the ability, and athletic directors the ability to get questions answered and design things on their own time. So I think 2022 is going to be a really great year for us, and one where we make a ton of strides as it relates to the customer experience to help coaches save time as much as we can.
Well, again, as an AD, I always had a great relationship with my BSN reps. And I know our coaches at my last school, they really loved the team store aspect that their reps helped set up with them. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so we actually have two products that help coaches. One is and athletic directors. One is called a sideline store, and that's basically a 24/7 digital website that sells all brands and all different kinds of merchandise, basically like operating a back-end bookstore for schools. And so that's a very popular and growing platform for us. Then you've got My Team Shop, which is all the player gear and the parent gear that coaches need their kids to buy. We're trying to make that seamless. We've got kind of an amazing assortment of Nike and Under Armour and private label branded stuff that really help a coach kind of get a handle of all the things they need their kids to buy and do it digitally. And then ultimately we ship it right to individuals' doors. So just a couple of digital platforms and more to come.
Yeah, again, just making a coach's job and an AD's job a lot easier. Very cool stuff. Once again, we're visiting with Jared Drinkwater from BSN Sports. We're going to take another quick break, but we're coming right back. We also want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. The FIAAA has a Vital Signs Wall of Fame video board for our Hall of Fame, and I encourage you to check it out for your organization. Wall of Fame by Vital Signs is on a mission. They want to bring your school's legacy to life, and they provide a variety of interactive touchscreen options, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, visit www.vitalsignswalloffame.com, or to learn more and get started on your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Jared, one question I've been asking our athletic directors revolves around this idea of social, emotional health awareness. Certainly with the Olympics and Simone Biles, very candid revelations of some of the challenges that she goes through or has gone through as an elite athlete. I think you and I were talking before we came on that you've got a couple of young boys that are starting tackle football now. So I'm going to phrase this from the parent perspective, but from a parent who's got let's say maybe a wider appreciation of the sports background. What sort of approach would you like your son's coaches to have in finding balance, let's say, between an old school, come on, you got to be tough, you got to get back in there, while being aware of and sensitive to those very social, emotional challenges that kids these days are experiencing? What are your thoughts?
It's a wonderful question, and I think you can play it from all different angles. I mean, I'll say at a high level, just thinking about what's going on in culture today, kids have really been put through the ringer. I mean, the last year and a half for a seventh grade kid has been almost impossible. I mean, you're isolated from friends, you're in school, you're out of school, COVID protocols, the pandemic. And so there's a lot of kind of under the surface hurt, I think, in kids today. And so if you take that lens and, what I'm looking for in coaches that are coaching my kids, and my sons, again, as I mentioned to you before the show started, just started their first year of seventh grade tackle football in Plano, Texas. And so you think about football, Plano, Texas, all wins and losses. I could care less if they lose every game. Do I want them to win a few games? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, for me, I mean, sports are an outlet for kids to not only build character, but to have fun, to socialize again. And so I'm looking for coaches, for athletic directors that are building an athletic community, an experience that just engages the kid, recognizes the kid, but most importantly, are they having fun? And I know that's really hard because ultimately there are a lot of athletic directors that will look at a coach's performance, and community will look at a coach's performance, wins or losses. I mean, how I'm looking at it, at least at the seventh grade level, is that coach should be recognized. If they go 0-10, fine. But if every single kid comes back for eighth grade,
Absolutely.
then they win. And so for me, it's a very different mindset to when I was growing up playing high school football in Massachusetts. But I think it's you got to adapt to how kids are feeling in the moment. And they are just craving for not only personal recognition, but just being part of a team and socializing again. And so I think coaches today, first and foremost, they got to figure out a way to make it engaging and fun above all else.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I would tell my middle school coaches, regardless of sport. I'm not hanging any banners in the gym for your undefeated season, but if every single kid comes up at the end of the season and says, boy, I wish we had a couple more games, or I can't wait till next year, that's where I know that, you're my coach of the year. So great stuff. We're going to come back with our final segment, the Athletic Director's Toolbox, sponsored by Athletic Surveys. And we're going to find out what Jared is going to put in his Athletic Director's Toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also allows the 95% of the players and parents who really love your program a voice, and helps demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466 or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, Jared, this has been really cool connecting with you and hearing all the great things that BSN can do for an AD or coach, but we're not done yet. Right now, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask you to give us your 3 tools that you would put in a young athletic director's toolbox. What 3 items or pieces of advice would you put into our athletic director's toolbox?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I will share 3 kind of ideas or examples that just I've seen from working with so many athletic departments across the country. And when athletic directors do these 3 things, the feeling across the entire campus, not just the athletic department, changes. And so I'd say the first one is, and this might sound superficial, but it really goes deeper. You've got to create kind of a brand image and a look and feel in the athletic department that rivals a D1 college. And so I hear all the time that one of the main objectives for athletic directors is to make kids within their athletic program feel like they're playing at the next level, even if they're 0-12. And so we work tirelessly on ADs to not only help kind of reinvent branding. We've got a whole division of artists that can help recreate and redefine a school's brand and mascot, but also kind of looking and feeling their best. You think about the best workplaces in America. You think about the most successful sports teams. They're typically state-of-the-art, incredible facilities. And I know that that is not realistic given budget constraints across the country, especially at the high school level. But there are things that athletic directors can do that won't break the bank. Simple signs that have their school mascot with the Nike swoosh next to it, or the Under Armour shield. Those are things that we do for schools for $100. You put a big one of those up there, they feel like they're sponsored by Nike or Under Armour. That goes a long way as they're getting ready to compete. And so we've got spent a lot of time putting together over the last year a whole campus branding team that can walk around an athletic department, from decals on walls to rugs when you walk into the athletic facility, to banners in the gym, really trying to get kids to feel like they're part of something bigger and to feel like they're sponsored. And that spills over into the gear that they put on as well. So I think kind of number one tool is don't overlook some low-hanging fruit as it relates to how people feel when they walk into your athletic facility. You'd be surprised how far you can stretch a dollar and how big of an impact it can make. So that's kind of first tool. I'd say secondly, once you've got them in the door, they're feeling okay. How do you maintain a sense of pride and spirit? And so our parent company, Varsity Brands, the whole mission is to elevate student experiences. And we do that through building school spirit and support on campus. We've proven through studies that the more a kid identifies with school spirit, the higher level of class participation and attendance, higher graduation rates, higher extracurricular activity participation, the list goes on and on. And so we started a program called the Believe in You Challenge, and you can check it out at believeInyouchallenge.com. And really what this is, in partnership with an incredible man named Kevin Atlas. Kevin was the first ever D1, or first ever basically college basketball player to earn a D1 scholarship with one arm. And so Kevin's whole story is super inspirational. He's talked to hundreds and hundreds of schools across the country. His whole story is around it only takes one person to believe in you to alter the course of your life. And so what he does is pretty powerful. In front of the entire school, he'll call someone from the band up on stage. And he'll ask the kid, he'll say, hey, how long you been in the band? 4 years. How many football games you been to in 4 years? All of them. And then he goes to sit back down. Then he calls someone from the football team up on stage. How long you been playing football? 4 years. How many band competitions have you been to? And it's silence. And so the whole notion is that once you start to get people believing in each other, what you can do to transform the way kids feel on a campus is absolutely incredible. I've witnessed it. And so the Believe in You Challenge basically challenges everybody on campus to go support an event that they've never been to before. So it's about football going to band, it's about band going to lacrosse, it's lacrosse going to field hockey, and then it's field hockey goes to a debate meet. And then all of a sudden you create this groundswell, really simple, that changes the culture on a campus. So bringing people together just through encouragement and support of one another, I think is a free way to kind of get the experience and the spirit levels up on campuses. And then I'll say lastly, and I know that some coaches and athletic directors are probably still kind of trying to shy away from this one, but like it or not, the influence an athlete has on the program is real. And I think that the coaches and athletic directors that embrace the sphere of influence and bring them into the fold when making decisions on branding or social media promotion or uniforms is really, really important. I mean, we see coaches that bring their captains in and help design their uniforms right at the desk with them. or get into Team Art Locker, which is our proprietary artwork database. We've got every school in the country locked and loaded. We've got thousands of design templates for every sport on campus that a kid could kind of cherry pick to put on my team shops. So I think getting athletes involved goes a long way in kind of program promotion and really creates an atmosphere where kids want to play for that type of program. So those are just 3 tips that I've seen work really well for athletic directors in schools across the country.
Wow, all great suggestions. And we actually had the pleasure of having Kevin Atlas speak at our state conference in Florida this past May. And you're absolutely right. He's fantastic, does a great job. For our listeners, look up that Believe in You program, Kevin Atlas, and have him come to your school. You will not be disappointed. Jared, I know you are at a national level here, but I always ask if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain, how can they get a hold of you, or how can they find out more about, what BSN can do for them?
Yeah, listen, I love talking to coaches and athletic directors. I am inspired and humbled by what they're doing every day to help kids. And so they can feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is jdrinkwater@bsnsports.com. And so I welcome any comments, feedback, suggestions, criticisms. I'll take it all.
All right, there you go. You've got the Chief Marketing Officer's email there. Let me know what you think. And thanks again for being on the podcast today. Great getting to know you and great stuff that you shared with us.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.